It's helpful to learn more finger tricks if it helps you save regrips. Here's one way I could have done the alg that has a very obvious regrip, although there are times when it's more subtle than this. Or if it prevents overworking fingers, so here I would have used 2 index finger turns in a row, where it's a little bit slower to take time to reset my finger, and if I use a different finger, then it is a little bit faster, because it prevents overworking the index finger. If you have not already learned good basic finger tricks like how to do U, D moves, and a few ways of doing F moves, then make sure you go and check out the finger tricks tutorial. The difference for this video is the finger tricks will either be more situational and rare, or it's just ones that I haven't covered a lot on this channel already. Number 1, middle finger U. For U-turns, you should almost always use your index fingers, even if it's in the reverse direction to help save on regrips. But it can be very good to use your middle finger for U if you've just used your index finger very recently. So of course, if you're doing U2, you can do a U2 flick, which is index plus middle, but there are times when there's a move in between. For example, in this T-perm, when you get to here, you have U prime, R prime, U prime. If you did U prime, R prime, U prime very quickly, you have to reset the finger, and there's a noticeable little gap if you compare it to not doing it that way and doing index followed by middle. So that would look like this, U prime, R prime, U prime, or faster would be like this. Another example is F perm, where it can actually happen twice. So here, when we get to this part, we have U prime, R prime, U prime again. So here you can do index followed by middle. And now we have R, U, R prime, U. So R, U, R prime, U with middle finger. Here are the 2 F perms side by side. On the left, the slower one, I overworked the left hand followed by right hand. Both of the index fingers had to reset, which takes extra time. And for the F perm on the right, I alternated index and middle finger, which made it smoother. Number 2, drag U. This is a finger trick you usually use after R prime that puts your hand in this position, and then you can drag with your ring finger or any finger around here. I choose ring finger to do that. An example where you should definitely use this finger trick is for this G perm. So we're gonna get to this part. Here we're gonna do R prime U, and it's gonna put us in this grip, so then the U should be done with this finger, as you could technically use your right hand, but it's going to be a lot less comfortable than if you got used to this. You can also use this finger trick for inserting a backslot F2L pair. I think this is pretty good. It's not as good as it looks because after you do this, your hand is going to be in a slightly worse position in terms of grip and you have to readjust it. But I still think it's probably better than a regrip depending on the situation. Number 3, Ado U2. I really hope it's pronounced Ado, but I've never seen a video of anyone actually saying this. This is a special way of doing U2 that goes like this, regular U, followed by pushing even further to complete the U2. So you might wonder why you'd ever have to do that instead of the regular U2, which looks a lot more compact and simple. Here's an example where I always use that finger trick. So the AUF, or adjust U face after this, is going to be this moves to the left side, so orange touches red, which means I have to do a U2 afterwards to correct it. So U2 like this. The reason that's good for a situation like this is because this is an RUD algorithm, and when you're doing RU and D moves, you have to hold the cube with your thumb and middle finger. And if your middle finger is busy stabilizing the cube, it's not available for U2, which means U2 can only be done with a single finger. Meanwhile, if you go to the end of the algorithm and look at your right hand, it's not in the correct grip to do a U2, so the only available option is this one. Number 4, regripless index finger F turns. This is where you can do F with either one of your index fingers from home grip. So normally the problem if you actually try this is you can often get the second layer to turn as well, making it inconsistent. The way around this is the finger that you use to flick should also have its pinky at least touching the second layer. It doesn't have to be completely blocking it, but has to at least touch it a little bit. So if I put my pinky finger here and just make sure my index finger actually goes to the right spot, then it should not move. And for left hand, I'd make sure my left pinky finger is here and do it this way. This can make things such as sledgehammer in F2L a lot faster and more consistent, and also hedge or reverse sledgehammer works the same way. Here are some other examples where you could use it. So for this J-perm, a lot of people will start it with a regrip so that this same finger trick is made easier due to your other hand holding the S slice. But instead, if your pinky finger starts underneath here, you could do that whole thing without a regrip. And faster would look like this. This OLL is much easier with this finger trick. During the U prime, you can regrip and then do this. but you shouldn't use it wherever you can. So this OLL is an example of where you should not, as after here, I could do it, but then the next U2 needs my index finger again, and that's overworking my index finger. So this is one example where it's still better to use the thumb here. That way your index finger is freed up. Number 5, rolling R2. Usually when you turn the left to right side, if you move up by 1, your thumb and whole hand moves with it. But if you do an R2, you can start in home grip and end in top grip, which is not how R2 looks like it should go. All you have to do is let go of your thumb midway through and keep turning with the rest of your fingers. Then you can end up with your thumb here. For example, in this OLL, it's really useful because if you roll the R2 and end up in this grip, then everything afterwards doesn't require a regrip anymore. If you didn't roll your R2, well, no one really does this, but people often do actually start the OLL from here. That way you end up in the correct grip. But remember, you don't have to do that. You can start from home grip and end up here anyway with a rolling R2. So these are the main finger tricks to look out for. Of course, there are even more situational ones like the one I showed with the thumb in the beginning, but that's maybe the only alg where I'm pretty sure it's worth it. In my OLL and PLL videos, I do show some other finger tricks that I also rarely use, but in those cases, I'm not even sure if it's worth it, so I may update those videos with new ones. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.